Getting an organization to change, it's got to be one of the toughest challenges any leader faces. It's constant, it's messy, and honestly, getting it right can mean the difference between thriving and, well, not. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on planned organizational change and explore three really powerful theories that can help guide you through that entire process. Okay, let's get into it.
But first, why is this so important? Well, get a load of this number. Some studies show that up to 70% of all major change efforts inside organizations just fail. Yep, they don't hit their goals, they go way over budget, or they just get dropped altogether. That is a huge failure rate. And it tells us something really important. Just wanting to change isn't going to cut it. You need a game plan.
So just to make sure we're on the same page, what do we even mean by planned change? We're not talking about scrambling to put out fires or reacting to a crisis. This is all about being proactive, being purposeful. It's about setting a clear goal and then taking very specific steps to get better at adapting, at innovating. It's basically change by design, not by disaster.
To really get a grip on how to manage change, we've got to go back to the beginning. We need to start with the foundational work of a social psychologist named Kurt Lewin. He gave us one of the very first and maybe one of the most lasting models for how to think about making change actually stick.
And Lewin's model, it's just brilliant in its simplicity. Think of it like trying to change the shape of an ice cube. First, you have to unfreeze. You've got to melt the current way of doing things, shake up the status quo and get people ready for something new. Then you have the change itself. That's when you actually introduce the new process or idea. And then, and this is the step people always forget, you have to refreeze. You solidify this new state so it becomes the new standard, so people don't just slide back into their old comfortable habits.
Now, Lewin's model is fantastic for those big, infrequent changes. But let's be real. When is change ever a one-time event anymore? What do you do when the world around you is constantly moving? When change is less of a project and more of a continuous journey? That question brings us to our next model.
And that leads us right into the action research cycle. This basically takes Lewin's core ideas and spins them into a dynamic, repeating loop. It's absolutely perfect for a world that's in constant motion.
So what is action research? At its heart, it's about being a scientist and an activist at the same time. Instead of just rolling out a change and crossing your fingers, you're constantly collecting data, analyzing it, taking very targeted action, and then, this is the key, you evaluate the results. That evaluation then feeds directly into the next round, creating this amazing cycle of improvement.
And you can see that cycle beautifully right here. It kicks off with diagnosing a problem, sure, but the real magic is in that feedback loop. See how after you take action, you evaluate? And then that evaluation immediately tells you what to diagnose next. It's not a straight line. It's a continuous engine that turns the whole organization into a learning machine.
Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. You've got Lewin's model, you've got action research. Both are super powerful, but they share a fundamental starting point, don't they? They both start by looking for a problem. They're what we call deficit-based. They ask, what's broken and how do we fix it? But what if that's not the only question to ask? What if there's a more powerful, more energizing way to start?
In that question, it opens the door to something truly revolutionary in the world of organizational development. It's called appreciative inquiry. And this isn't just another technique, folks. It's a whole different way of seeing the world. It is a positive revolution in how we approach change.
I mean, just look at this slide. This is the whole ballgame right here. On the left, you've got the traditional way. Find the problem, figure out what caused it, brainstorm a solution, fix what's broken. Makes sense. But look at the right. Instead of fixing what's broken, you start by appreciating what is working. Instead of analyzing failures, you imagine what could be based on what's already great. It's a complete flip from problem solving to possibility finding.
So the magic of appreciative inquiry, or AI for short, is that it's all about doing it together. It brings everyone into this collective search for the organization's positive core. It's about finding those hidden strengths, those moments of excellence, and then using them as the fuel to build a future that people are genuinely excited to create. And it works through this really powerful four-step cycle, the 4 Ds. You start with discovery, finding and appreciating what gives life to the organization. Then you dream. You collectively imagine what the future could be at its very best. Next, you design. You co-create a tangible plan to make that dream happen. And finally, destiny, where you empower everyone to make it a reality.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds kind of nice, right? A little kumbaya maybe? Does this positive approach actually work when the rubber meets the road? Well, let's look at an amazing case study that puts appreciative inquiry to the ultimate test. So picture this, a K-12 boys' school in Australia. The leadership has a big new goal. They want to create an environment where their students can truly thrive. Now, instead of starting by focusing on problems like bullying or stress, they decided to try something different. They used appreciative inquiry to build a culture of well-being from the ground up.
And you can see the results of their 4D process right here. Their discovery phase led to a shared dream of what a thriving culture could look like. That dream was then designed through concrete things like a new curriculum and staff training. And all of that led to the Destiny phase, where they launched an incredible 15 new initiatives, everything from a staff yoga club to student-led summits.
That's a pretty impressive list of new programs for sure. But here's the million-dollar question. Did changing the focus from problems to potential actually change how the students behaved? Let's take a look at the data.
So the school tracked positive behaviors, which they called merits, and negative ones, demerits. Look at year 1. The numbers are pretty close, right? A real tug of war. But after they brought in this positive, appreciative approach, something amazing happened. The demerits went down a bit, which is great, but the number of merits, it just exploded. The number of positive merits handed out to students shot up by over 83% in just 1 year. That's not just a small bump, that is a massive shift. It shows that focusing on and amplifying what's already working can have a jaw-dropping impact, often way more than just trying to stamp out what's wrong.
Okay, so we've looked at 3 very different, very powerful models. How in the world do you know which one to use? Well, the best way to think about this is that you're building a toolkit for leading change, and each tool has a specific job.
This table here is your cheat sheet. Think of Lewin's model as your go-to for a stable, one-off change. Action research is perfect for that continuous, data-driven improvement cycle when you're tackling complex problems. But when you need to change the culture, when you need to spark real innovation and get people fired up and engaged, that's when you pull out the generative power of appreciative inquiry.
And that right there is the key takeaway. This is not a competition. It's not about which theory is best. A really skilled leader today understands the situation in front of them and then picks the right tool for the job. Sometimes you need a scalpel to fix a specific problem, and other times you need to inspire a whole movement. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you're facing a big change, just pause for a second. Instead of jumping right into asking, okay, what's broken here? Try asking a different question first. Ask your team, when have we been at our absolute best? Ask them what's working. And just see what happens. The answer you get might just change everything.